The man was wrongly convicted. Everyone turned away. Years passed. His life was ruined. But one day, a law student accidentally saw his case. She couldn't forget his look. She went all the way and changed everything. Marvin had never been in trouble with the law before. That is why, when he was arrested, he felt completely confused. In fact, when they told him the reason for his arrest, he burst out laughing. They were accusing him of murdering someone he didn't know. And what made it worse was that the evidence against him was really strong. They had witnesses who placed him at the scene of the crime, but Marvin was innocent. He tried to explain this to the officers, but they didn't believe him, and neither did anyone else. At his trial, he pleaded not guilty, but the jury found him guilty anyway. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison, but thanks to good behavior, he was able to get out after serving 17 years. When he got out, he was angry. Angry at the justice system, angry at the people who believed the accusations against him, and most of all, angry at himself for not being able to prove his innocence. All those years he had spent trying to convince people that he wasn't a murderer, but no one listened. So he decided to keep quiet and get on with his life. He started going to therapy sessions and slowly began to learn how to control his anger. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find a job or a place to live. People looked at him strangely whenever he entered a room, and he could feel their disgust towards him in their stares. It was obvious that his reputation as a murderer preceded him. For more than 2 decades, Marvin had been nothing more than a hardworking, honest guy, but now no one saw him as such anymore. After spending so many years in prison, he had lost everything. His family disowned him. He had no friends left, and no one wanted to hire him. He wandered from place to place, sleeping wherever he could find shelter. One day, he ended up in a small town where he met an old woman named Martha. Martha was kind. She gave him food and clothes and even let him stay in her spare bedroom. For a while, it seemed like maybe things were finally looking up for him. He had a roof over his head and someone who cared about him. But soon, even that little bit of happiness was taken away from him. One night, he woke up in the middle of the night and saw Martha standing by his bed. She was crying. "Get out," she said. "I'm sorry, but you have to leave." Marvin was confused. "Why? What did I do?" he asked. "You're a murderer," she whispered, shaking her head. "That's why you can't stay here." With these words, Martha threw him out on the street again. Once again, he had nowhere to go. Hopeless and tired of living, he curled up on a bench and fell asleep. When he woke up, he saw a young woman sitting next to him. "Are you okay?" she asked. He nodded. "What's your name?" She continued. "Marvin." "Nice to meet you, Marvin." "I'm Isabella." They talked for hours that day. Isabella was a law student. She had seen Marvin sleeping on the bench and felt sorry for him. That was why she sat down next to him. But as they talked, she realized that there was more to this homeless man than she initially thought. He was intelligent, charismatic, and very funny. As time passed, they became friends. Every day after class, she would meet up with Marvin on that same bench and listen to him tell stories about his life before prison. But every time he started talking about his wrongful conviction, he would stop abruptly and change the subject. Clearly, the topic was painful for him. One day, however, Isabella pushed him to talk about it. She wanted to help him, but she didn't know how. "Please tell me what happened, Marvin," she said. "I want to help you, but I don't know how." He hesitated, but then eventually started telling her about how he was falsely accused of murder and sent to prison. And as he spoke, something inside Isabella changed. When he finished speaking, she told him that she was going to look into his case. He shook his head. "It won't do any good, trust me," he said. "Everyone has forgotten about me. No one cares about what happened to me. And besides, the evidence against me was too strong. There's nothing anyone can do." But Isabella wasn't convinced. She couldn't shake off the feeling that he was innocent. So she went to the local library and started doing research. After a few days of searching through old newspapers and police reports, she finally found something. In one of the police reports, she discovered a witness statement that had clearly been overlooked. It was a statement from a man who had been at the scene of the crime and had seen the actual murderer. According to the statement, the man had reported the incident to the police immediately, but for some reason they never followed up on it. She showed this new evidence to Marvin. His face lit up. "This changes everything," he said. "Thank you, Isabella." Together, they decided to go to the police and present the new evidence. But the police didn't care. "We already solved this case 17 years ago," an officer told them. "We don't need your help." Dejected, they left the police station. Isabella refused to give up. She went to the courthouse and managed to get access to the original trial records. She spent weeks poring over the documents, and one day she came across something strange. One of the supposed eyewitnesses who had testified against Marvin had a questionable alibi. According to his testimony, he had been at a bar at the time of the murder, but the owner of the bar said that he had definitely not been there. She knew she was onto something big, so she took this new evidence to the district attorney. The DA was surprised. He had not seen these documents before. "You may be right," he said. "I will look into this." A few weeks later, he called Isabella. "I have good news for you," he said. "We are reopening Marvin's case." Soon, the whole town was buzzing with the news. After 17 years, Marvin's case was finally being reopened, but not everyone was happy about this. The actual murderer, who had gotten away for so long, was now at risk of being caught. He was furious. He hired a lawyer and tried to get Isabella kicked off the case. But she didn't back down. She fought for her friend and eventually won. Finally, the truth was coming out. With Isabella's help, Marvin was able to prove that he was innocent. The evidence against him had been fabricated. The real murderer was a jealous ex-boyfriend of the victim who had killed her because she had broken up with him. He had then framed Marvin, knowing that he would be an easy target, but in the end, justice was served. The murderer was arrested and sentenced to 25 years in prison. And Marvin was finally free. He was innocent, and now he was also famous. News outlets from all over the country picked up his story, and soon people all over the nation knew about him. Marvin was very grateful to Isabella for helping him. He couldn't have done it without her. He knew that she had risked her career and her reputation by sticking with him, but she didn't care. She had made a friend in prison, and she wasn't about to abandon him. Together, they decided to start a foundation to help other wrongfully convicted prisoners get out. They traveled around the country, meeting with prisoners and their families, listening to their stories and helping them however they could. Marvin was no longer a homeless man sleeping on park benches. He had a purpose in life now, and it all because one young woman refused to let go of his case. If this story moved you, there are hundreds more waiting to be told. Real people, real pain, real American stories. Subscribe now and be the voice that helps them be heard.